So I want to say, San Francisco, do better. Welcome to the November Roundtable on Photofocus. We're on Season 1, Episode 11, close to wrapping up Season 1. This episode is called Crime and Cameras. As almost always, I'm joined by Rob Maroto from CalgaryPhotos.com and our old friend and my previous podcast co-host Levi Sim from over there in Idaho and Utah. Well, guys, welcome back. It's good to have some of my main hosts on that I know real well. This should be a fun one, a smooth one, a holiday one, a little bit. All right, this month we're going to be talking about some crimes that were caught on camera in my hometown or my home, San Francisco. I want to talk a little bit about drones. We're going to work in some holiday topics with Levi. Guys, welcome. Glad to have you. How's it going, Rob, up there? You're on the West Coast right now, right?
I am on the West Coast, but I'm also on in Alberta every once in a while as well. So I commute between Vancouver Island and Calgary and shoot anything in between. So it's it's good. Drove through a couple of snowstorms already this year. It's fantastic. But thanks to those lovely people at Canadian Tire that have given me my four winter rated tires, I am alive. And,
wow, nice shout out to the tires.
Yes, good old Canadian Tire. Why? Because we need more Canadian stuff that are individually owned and operated.
Nice. Well, Rob Maroto is our
between the two as well.
Rob's our local real estate photography. He's got a good business up there. He's kind of our expert in that area. Levi Sim is the marketing photographer at Utah State University. Man, real job in photography. A lot of people are jealous about that, Levi.
I was jealous about it. That's why I quit being a freelancer to take it. Yeah.
Hey, there are big pros and cons to both, right?
That's right.
You really know.
Yeah. At some point, the cons outweigh the pros in either one of
Yeah.
I quit a job to be a freelancer, and I quit a freelancer to be a job. So
what's the biggest thing that's better about being a freelancer?
What's better about being a freelancer is the flexibility of schedule. I would say, like the ability to walk out the door and climb a mountain any morning I want to.
Well, on the other hand, when you get overbooked, then you have less flexibility in a way, right? You have
exactly, yeah.
Comes and goes.
It's feast and famine, as a freelancer.
I've been trying to learn how to appreciate the times where I'm like, okay, I don't have any bookings coming up this week. So, I mean, I'm lucky that I have things, consulting stuff that I do is great. I try to appreciate the times when I'm, less busy and can, I should go climb mountains. Maybe I'll take that under advisement, a little farther for me, but
highly recommended.
Yeah. And I think we're going to ask you about, some non-photography things that you do might come into discussion today when we talk about people wanting to, shoot down a drone, for instance. Not that you would do that. First, let's say thank you to our sponsor. As always, we have Photomatics for high dynamic range photography. Speaking of my consulting, I'm involved with them, and I know that there's a new version coming here shortly for Photomatics Pro 7, and the beta should be public pretty soon. This will be going out on Thanksgiving, and we should have a beta pretty soon. So if you're interested in getting a look at that, that'll be out, and then not long before that version will come out. But
they're on 7. Right?
Version 7. Did I say 7? Or?
No, yeah, you said 7. I'm just thinking that I started using it in not, when nobody puts a 1 after their.
Even I started using it at version 3, and I've been involved since like 08 or something. I mean, it's kind of the granddaddy of.
Oh, maybe I was on 3 then. Genre. That's about when I started using it. Was 08, 09. Yeah.
Well, before that, it was really a plug-in for Photoshop more than used as a. And then I think 3 is when it kind of really grew up got mature. I don't know. I wasn't that involved before then, but yeah, we all, I think all three of us have used it, and I know Rob and I use it a lot, and so it's nice to be kind of involved with them, and appreciate them sponsoring this and making it work, because there are a lot of really positive things in podcasting in the media, and gets us all together. I know I'm feel always great about being social and with people that I know in the photography business. So that's one reason I like to do this, have you guys on. The only other thing about,
it's like they say, podcasts have made everybody so much better. We are better people because of podcasts.
Is that what they say?
The hosts, the listeners, everybody. Yes,
I think so. I mean, let's just take a second and thank the
Steve
pod
Jobs?
fathers.
I mean, I'm here because of the Photofocus podcast. Like, I started listening to the Photofocus podcast when I started being a freelancer, and I'd walk to my studio every day, and I'd listen to Scott Bourne talking to Skip Cohen, and then Rich Harrington started popping in there, and then this guy Ron Pepper was on there sometimes too, and man, I thought, boy, if I was ever on that podcast, I know I've made it.
I know I had a similar, I mean, I was just only a couple years ahead of you as far as going pro, I think, because I discovered Tips from the Top Floor, which is Chris Marquardt. He's in Germany, but it's English language podcast. And he was like getting me over the hump for digital, because I was getting my head around things like sharpening and cropped sensors and all these kinds of issues that go along with the digital cameras of the day. And this would have been...
Tell me more about those things, Ron.
What's that?
Tell me more about those. That's a new term to me. Just kidding.
Digital camera. What?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I picked up a digital camera and I was disappointed with the results I was getting. And it was just because I didn't understand what the differences were. And he did these 5-minute or short tips originally, and he's still going, by the way. It's a good shout out for him. I need to contact him because I've met him a few times, and he's it's been a while, but his podcast is apparently the first and longest running photography podcast. So that was a big deal, and so it made a change. I used to work at it. I used to listen to that while I was setting up the bar when I was still bartending to make ends meet, to become my own freelancer.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Ron, today is November 22nd as we record this, which is Photofocus's birthday. This is our every day since November 22nd, or is it November 2nd? I think it's November 22nd, 1998. We've been published continuously.
I didn't know that. Wow. Did you? What? Wait, I'm sorry. I kind of
1998.
1980.
Yeah, not the podcast, but the website, the blog.
That means that it's 25 years. 24 years. Okay. 24. All right. So we didn't miss a big one, but
so next year we'll do a big one.
Yeah. So this year, do we send a happy belated birthday card to the company?
Yeah. Happy 21st.
It's like, oops, my bad, forgot again.
Well, that's cool. We should have put, well, next year we got to make sure we do something like that. And that'll be,
we'll make it special next year, and we'll just forget about this year, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's right.
Okay, we'll just let that slide under the rug.
I think it's November 2nd. It's not 22nd. I think I'm a couple weeks late myself, so let's just sweep that under the rug.
It's a good thing that Photofocus is like an actual company instead of just like an actual friend of ours that we would have to, feel bad about.
I mean,
and this is also the nice thing about being a freelancer. You can't get fired for saying stuff like that.
That's right.
Well, yeah. Anyway, much like Levi, getting started in photography, podcasts were a big deal. And I also, when I first heard Photofocus, I thought I was just a listener and a fan and everything. And then I got involved, and it was fantastic. And here we are. So, and if anybody doesn't know, Levi and I were doing a podcast together, the two of us, and we both had kind of big life changes. So I think that's why we kind of let it fall away. But I'm glad to have you back. And boy, we've been really talk about pre-show banter. Wow. That's a lot. So let's get right into, I say let's get right into, because we've not gotten right into it, but let's get into our first topic, which is, oh boy, I have the audio from a video that I saw. YouTube suggested this to me. If you don't know, I lived in San Francisco my whole adult life, basically, until just a couple of years ago. And I used to live right next to a place called the Palace of Fine Arts. And then last week, this happens.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Sorry, Pep. I was going to say, you took me to the Palace of Fine Arts for the first time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was like a block and a half away. So right around the Palace of Fine Arts, there are these gorgeous mansions. That wasn't me. I was in an apartment a block and a half away, but very happy to live there. And I was always there. Like the kids, we'd be feeding the ducks, and there were always photographers there. It was a very popular place for.
And to be clear, it's not like an enclosed building.
No, it's a big open park, the big lake. Not that big of it. It's a relatively small open park, but it has it was built like for one of the World's Fairs, I think, and it looks like a Roman architecture. You might recognize it. This video is in the show notes, but I'll play a little bit of audio that this just happened.
A violent attack and attempted robbery of a wedding photographer caught on camera at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. It happened in broad daylight in front of a lot of witnesses. These robberies are becoming common at popular photo shoot locations. And
okay, so that's a common mainstream media way of couching it, but
yeah,
I've been in, I still go to San Francisco. I still know people there. And the crime is a bit out of control because they're not even putting people in jail when they break in like cars and things.
Yeah.
And now in broad daylight, and I really recommend anybody that's, if you can, pause this, look in the show notes, click the YouTube link. It's ridiculous. I've hung out right where those, they're two guys. The body language is weird. They're holding guns, but they don't really look like they're not coming up and pointing at it and saying, give me your stuff. They're kind of acting strange, but they're trying to grab this guy's camera and he's not letting it go, which
repeatedly,
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Let's get to that in a second, but he's not wanting to let it go. And people are just watching. But what I want to say is that this is, it's a city. San Francisco is a big city. It's like any other one. There are things happen there. There are bad areas and there are crimes, but it's always was so relatively safe that I always told people that watch out for yourself. Don't be stupid. But as cities go, it's pretty safe. And this little area it's unbelievable that this is just happening in broad daylight. So you guys saw it. I mean, what was your first impression of seeing people steal stuff under the very tree I've hung out under for years?
It gave me PTSD. I don't really have PTSD. But I was robbed there a couple of months ago too. But I was also.
Wait, what?
I told you this, right?
You're robbed.
I was robbed in San Francisco a couple of months ago. Yeah.
Robbed?
Shoot. Bleep that.
What were you? No, you didn't tell me that.
In South San Francisco, right? Not far from the airport. In fact, it was in the middle of this big tech campus. So there's all these tall buildings, fancy manicured lawns. 20 yards from the security desk at the building I was working in, I was making pictures. And 20 yards away outside the door, our rental car is parked there. Somebody drives up, smashes the window, and starts grabbing whatever they can get out of the car, which happened to be my backpack with my laptop in it. They tried to get my friend's golf clubs. I couldn't get those out.
Was that on a trip? Did I see you on that trip?
You saw me right after that trip. You were just coming back from college touring on that trip. Oh. And you had COVID. I think you had COVID that day.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I bet you probably did tell me because you're right. On that trip, I was coming down with COVID, didn't know it, and then I was out for like a week and a half. Yep. Yeah. So you probably told me, and I was just in such a fog that's not something you forget very easily.
It's a fiasco, man, and brazen, just like this. Like I don't. It doesn't seem having seen the security footage and stuff. It doesn't look like they had like cased it. You know, they hadn't been like hanging out, walking by cars, looking in windows. But it's a clean car of a style that is commonly rented, and it's got out-of-state plates. And so they just pull up and smash the window and grab whatever's there, not knowing anything about it. So all I got was my underwear, my laptop, and my toiletries bag.
Well, the underwear probably came in handy after that.
Right?
So they didn't case you.
Yeah,
But-
some little mementos that can't be replaced as well.
Well,
Jeez,
that kind
awful.
of crime, that kind of crime is another one. I did also see reports, just much like this one. It was probably a good year ago. I think it was during the main COVID times, where there's an entrance to the freeway. For people that know, it's on Bryant Street entrance. It's close to Sammy's Cameras. So there's oftentimes traffic getting on the bridge, and people pulled up, broke the back window of kind of like an SUV or hatchback type. I think it was like a hatchback.
Yeah.
And they just crashed it open and took whatever they had just bought at the camera store and got in another got in a
Like
different
while they
car.
were driving. Like they were in the car.
The person who had just bought something was like waiting to get on the bridge in traffic, and then someone else pulled up in another car, and then they were ready to get away the direction that there was no traffic. So they grabbed stuff, got in the car, and took off before even if they wanted to chase, they would have had a hard time getting out of that traffic.
10 years ago in Salt Lake, they would follow wedding photographers from the wedding areas to the camera store, and then break their windows while they were in the store and take off.
That's getting just, I don't know. Well, there's one more thing I wanted to point out about this, this last report. And then, because again, that photographer was trying not to let stuff go. So check this out.
The victim, very lucky he was not shot. We're told he has a bloody head from the repeated blows to his head. Now, he says the reason why he hung on to his cameras, because he did not want to give up those pictures for his clients. Live in San Francisco.
What do you think of that?
Jeez. There's a certain part where you really have to think what your priorities are. And I hate to say it. Yes, I understand that it's a person's wedding. But if you lose the wedding photos because you were pistol whipped, I think your client would kind of forgive you for that, especially if they were there watching it happen.
Right.
You know, there's
it's not all lost because they are still there. So
yeah,
I'm sure you have some fabulous work that you'd hate to lose that you'd been working at, maybe say for a couple hours. I don't know exactly, but okay, we can do it again. You know.
Yeah, and I'm insured, and my insurance will pay something like $40,000 to reshoot a wedding. Like they will fund that to have that happen. And it looks like it was staged photos that the guy was doing. It wasn't during a ceremony or anything. So
right, this was in fact it was probably no, it didn't look like engagement. Maybe it was engagement, but they were just out at a park.
Photos before weddings,
probably
with bride and groom,
or even just the formals or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right.
Formals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it'd be much worse if you were fighting off somebody like that and then the gun goes off and all of a sudden the bride's dead. I'd be more afraid of the liability of that than I would be of, I was trying to protect your wedding photos. Like at any situation, it's just photography. It's not worth the life or anything like that. So, no, looking at that, my biggest thing was, you've actually endangered everyone else around you by trying to fight off people with guns like that. So, I don't know how I feel about that one. But
well, you really brought up what I wanted to, Rob, because when I watched that, and let's say I saw that in real life and I was there, I think our own natural reaction is to try to do something, and although it's been a while, it's no big secret that I kind of know what to do. And so if it were just me and some guy was pointing a gun at me and robbing me, that's one thing. Like I say, I might decide to defend myself. I might not, because I don't care how well you know what to do. Again, it's been a long time for me, and I don't care how well you know what to do. I mean, I know someone who was I don't know if I've told the story, I don't give the whole thing, but a kickboxer dude from San Francisco that I knew a little bit, and I knew that I would never have a shot in competing with the guy, and he got killed because he went after someone stealing from him. And so anyway, one of the reactions is to try to do something. But even if you did know what to do, even if it was a police officer trying to do something, either any of those things can escalate. And like you said, someone gets, just say, randomly shot by a stray bullet. Because I don't think those guys that were stealing knew how to use those weapons just based on their body language that I was looking at. That's just a guess. Just a guess. But you never really, you could just have the worst situation in the world because you tried to do something. I mean, like my first reaction was there's the groom just standing there, but that's actually, that's really probably the right choice in that situation, unless you thought they were going to escalate it on their own. So I don't know. But you guys
stand in front of your bride, make sure that she doesn't get shot. I
guess unless you think they're going to start shooting, then just to get rid of them is really seems like the right way to go, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
Am I being way too unmasculine here? I don't know.
No, and we'll just say it. We're all impressed with the dude's cool head under pressure, and we're sitting here critiquing after the fact from 1,000 miles away. But he, good job, dude. Now, let us tell you should. I'm not too sure if I'm not too sure if I'm critiquing him or not. That's what I kind of can't decide.
Yeah. No, but it's no. I think the big thing right now is going to be more about. I hate to say this. Is this the new reality? Is this what is part of the reality? Because Levi, like you said, you weren't expecting it to happen, and it happened. That guy definitely didn't expect it to happen, and I'm sure there's a lot of other photographers out there that are going to run into this situation. So then the question becomes, if you know that the possibility is there, what do you do about it? Like, I think I brought this up before in one of our in one of the Facebook groups I put out there. One of the members was like, "Oh my god, my car got broken into again," and I said, "Well, describe your car." And it's like, "Well, I own this business and I've got this." I'm like, "Did you put your company name on your car? Like Fred's Photography Services on your car?" Like, "Yeah, well, it's good marketing." It's like, "Well, why the hell do you think you got broken into?" Okay, right. So that's like, to me, is a no-brainer. But going forward, I like, when people ask me, like, what camera bag should I buy? I say, one that doesn't look like a camera bag.
Yeah,
definitely.
What kind of gear should I use? Gear that doesn't look like it's expensive.
Why should all over that stuff?
Right? Like, I put stickers on my long lenses just to make it look like I'm a college student that bought a whole bunch of used stuff. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't go out in fancy clothes when I'm at an outdoor shoot. I don't drag around my camera gear on a wheelie bag. And the other thing is, I also know that if it gets stolen, I've got air tags and everything. I've got a way to track them, at least for a little bit, right? Until they get found out or thrown out or anything like that. But I think there's a little bit of mitigation, having things like, oh my God, do you guys do this? Do you guys have a catalog of all your equipment, inventory with serial numbers, purchase dates, and replacement values?
Sure.
My insurance guy
Levi?
thinks I do.
Yeah, because the insurance asks for it. Yeah.
Right. So having that is critically important. What I realize is that a lot of photographers don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they say, well, what was stolen? It's like, right?
Yeah, the insurance usually demands that. That's the main thing they ask for.
I thought so too. I've got insurance for all the equipment for all of my guys. And I think our total aggregate replacement value is somewhere in the rounds of around $300,000. They haven't asked me for any serial numbers.
No
right.
kidding.
Yeah, nothing. And I thought that was going to be the first question, but they haven't. And it's interesting. If I go around to it, I think I've got most of it written down, just because I've been doing it out of practice for now. But having stuff like that, almost becomes as important. And like Levi, to your point before, you said if that happened, yeah, your insurance will pay out like $40,000 to recreate the wedding scene, so you could recreate the photo shoot. Yes, so the insurance is there to help you, to cover you for stuff like that. And if you've got everything covered, then I don't think you'd be in a position where you feel like you have to fight and hold on to all that gear, because looking at the other people that were interviewed in that interview, they said, yes, this is my livelihood. I don't know what I would do if my bags were stolen, because this is how I feed myself. Well, that's what insurance is for. So if it does happen, then you don't have to think about, oh my God, my livelihood is gone, because
I feel like this is the media failing us there a little bit. I think they found someone that said something that was good for the story, where how many people who are professional photographers don't have insurance? I mean, insurance costs a couple $100 a year for the small.
Mine is $300 now. Less than $300.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you can get if you're just starting out, you can get something just in case the worst happens. You can get some small. Maybe it won't cover $40,000 more for the wedding reshoot or something, but you can get some insurance.
It's not expensive.
Yeah. In fact, if you get I think like before being a photographer, like when my stereo got stolen out of my car, when that was a thing back in like the 90s, and it was my renter's or my homeowner's insurance that paid it. So anyway, insurance is a thing.
For your business tools.
No, that's the thing. When you're in a business, then you'll need to but it's a cheap thing in the grand scheme. So get something like that, because I don't know how many wedding photographers, if let's just say you've got like good Canon, Nikon, Sony, whatever glass, then you should have a couple $100 worth a year for insurance. It's just extreme. So I think they're kind of failing us there and making it sound a little bit crazy. But what I see, and this gets outside of photography because it's in general, is that the way they're treating crime now is just not good for most of us. And San Francisco and it's not just San Francisco, it's just what I know, but I know this happens other places. They're just not treating crime the way they need to. These are, they'll go after a lot of questionable crimes, or in California where marijuana is legal and stuff like that. So thankfully they're spending less time dealing with things that aren't hurting anybody, and we need them to come back and protect theft, real things and worse crimes, but real ones. And so they're just treating this not seriously enough. And I think what we did see in that video is a couple photographers saying, I don't know if I'm going to come to the city anymore. And so I don't really see how any of this has a good ending. Like, I'm out of the city now. I'm enjoying, I'm got more gray hair. I'm okay, living out of the city, but I do miss it. And it's a real shame that those beautiful places may not be photography havens anymore. I mean, it's a real shame. So I want to say, speaking of other podcasts, there's a sports podcast I listen to. They say, do better. So I want to say, San Francisco, do better and watch for those things. So that's my rant on it. And it's a little bit personal again, because of where it was, and it really kind of triggered me and everything. So,
well, a couple things. Everyone I've told that my window was smashed and stuff was taken, everyone in the area who I told that to, they said, oh yeah, they're not surprised. It's like, this is standard living. And so, yeah, like you say, it's not being, I don't know if it's being prosecuted or pursued or under.
I don't think so.
Whatever.
I mean, it's just normal now, eh?
Yeah. I have another friend here in town, here in the valley where I live. And she was working in San Francisco just a couple months ago also, and was also robbed there. And the thing is, the guys who robbed my car, they got my computer, which I think is kind of useless, right? I turn on the Find My laptop thing and I lock it, and they have to do some serious hoops to unlock my MacBook.
Yeah.
Same thing with my phone, right? A phone is valuable, but not to anybody else. It takes some work to get it out. A camera is just free game. It is easy to sell. It is easy to use. There's no security built into our cameras whatsoever, which is that a major failing? Is this like, do we need to call out the camera manufacturers? Do I need to have a
do better
scanner on my shutter button? You know,
Right.
Like, why not? They're creating these for, all of our other devices have them. Cars have them. Guns have them.
If your camera is a drone, it has it. I don't know if that's what you said.
Oh yeah, like if you're flying a drone, you've got to do security and stuff. Yeah,
everybody knows where that is. The FAA knows where that is. So yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. There are two things that I'm looking for now from. I mean, I'm a Nikon shooter, but from the big manufacturers, is I want LiDAR on DSLRs, and now tracking. Why not? That sounds like
tracking or use
fingerprint security.
Yeah, like can I can I add my finger to my shutter button so that it scans it? I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to live in that kind of a situation.
It sounds like a point of failure to me.
I love shooting out here in Canada.
You could walk into my house at any time of day when I'm not here, pretty much. I'm just like, I do not live in a big city, and I enjoy it very much. And I don't know if I want to feel like I live in a big city because I have to security unlock my camera and I can't hand it to somebody else to use it. And there's a lot of
just in general, let's just say Americans and Canadians, because that's where we are. But you just need to start thinking that crime is crime again. And it's just, I almost dropped a editable word there. We just need to get back to that. We just need to take some responsibility. That means in a lot of ways, our expectations need to be set again for that. This is not okay. What's going on here, and we need us and law enforcement to treat it like that. For our part, I'll just give. We'll move on unless you guys have something. But for our part, we need to do what you guys mentioned about not looking like we have stuff to steal. Somebody recommended years and years ago, I can't remember who, or they said that they keep their camera equipment in their back of their truck in a cooler, an old cooler. And then someone else said, "Oh, if you want to kick it up a notch on the cooler, take a Sharpie and write bait." and then no one's gonna steal it. So right. Don't be. Let's go back to my self-defense days. Don't be the person that someone wants to steal from. So don't look like you have anything to steal, hopefully. But if you do, also make sure you're engaged. You know what's going on in your. You know what's going on in your surroundings. You're not completely distracted. You don't look like someone who won't care or fight back. You look like someone who's on a mission, know where you're going, whatever the case is.
You got the situational awareness.
Yeah, we can't all be 6'2" and 220 pounds, but people don't typically decide that I'm the one that they're going to mug. But even if you don't have that, you can still act like you value yourself, your belongings, your everything, that you're in control here, and you're a lot less likely to be a victim. And that's just, it ain't a fix for everything. I'm just saying that's one good thing. Don't look like you're down and out. Don't look like you're not someone's going to fight back. So,
well, Pep, I got stuck on a snowy road the other day. My son and I were driving up a dirt road, and we went farther than we should have, and we were sideways in the car. We were shoving branches under the wheels and everything. And finally got out, drove down 100 yards, and there's another dude in a less capable vehicle than mine with his wife in the car and his buddies in the back seat driving up the road. And I rolled down my window and I said, "I just got stuck up there. I recommend that you do not continue up that road." If you see somebody leaving their camera gear on the back seat of their Corolla, it would be appropriate for you to say, "Hey, there's been a lot of crime in this area. I'd recommend putting that in the trunk." Don't make it easy for folks. It's not embarrassing to help somebody. It's not inappropriate to reach out for your fellow photographers and other people. It is absolutely.
I think that's the first thing we should all think, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's exactly.
But how like I've seen so many people be like, "Oh man, so I was at a dinner one time, and we walked outside of this restaurant, and this guy pulls up in his truck, rolls down his window, and goes, 'Hey, do you guys know where the bar is?'" And and we said, no, I don't really know where it is. And he goes, well, do you have any marijuana? And we said, no, we don't have any marijuana either. And it didn't strike me, but as soon as he pulled away, somebody goes, well, that guy was drunk. Well, if he's drunk, why did we let him drive away? So I ran after the guy and drove his car to the
Nice. See, but that's Levi Sim.
Why would I let a drunk driver drive down the road?
Yeah. And he seemed like a friendly drunk, right? So
his name's Eugene. We were quick pals. It was actually a Photoshop World in Orlando a couple of years ago. And so, like, we're photographers. We're a tight knit community. We don't let other people get in trouble when we can do something about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. Way to wrap up that topic, Levi. Thank you. Now, speaking of shooting things, this one came across my radar too, because everyone's talking about drones. And
yes,
depending where you are, how do you guys feel about when drones are flying over your property? Levi, I'm asking you for a specific reason, but what do you think?
Yeah, so it gives you a little tick in your shoulder, right? Like,
do you ever think
annoying sound? Like, it's an annoyance to me if somebody is flying over my property, and then if they're hanging out, it's
creepy,
suspicious. It feels suspicious. It feels like they're photographing me because that they can't fly that thing without viewing a camera, and so yeah.
Would you think about doing anything about it?
Would I think about doing anything about it? I am a gun owner. I would not. It wouldn't even cross my mind to pull out a gun and shoot something down. However, I live in a town with 627 people, and 632 of them would absolutely pull out a piece of ridiculous.
600 people and 1,200 guns.
Exactly, at least.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it would not be unheard of to hear of somebody shooting at a drone, especially like you live in a country property. Why has somebody flown a quarter mile off the road away from anything else to get over a house to begin with? So, well,
that begs the question: is why would people be hovering over your property? And
why would people
that's
be
a
hovering
weird
over
thing.
your property?
But turns out getting from A to B, crossing your property is we're just talking legally now that it is indeed. And I'll give a shout out. I was looking at some of these. Looking into some of these rules and laws, and there's a link in the show notes to a YouTube. It's 51 Drones is a YouTube channel. I don't know the guy, but he seems like he really is one of those YouTubers who doesn't pretend. He says right out, like, this is my job. I'm not the lawyer, but I've looked into it, and you feel like, and he puts notes about the laws and stuff. And I really liked what he said about this because this question keeps coming up in different places because a lot of people say, oh yeah, my drone comes over my property, I'm going to shoot it down. Okay. Well, don't do that because apparently it's a federal crime.
Federal crime.
Yeah. So
airspace is governed by a federal organization.
Yeah. And even though, I wish I didn't even see his name. He didn't share his name, but he put it really pretty clearly that, like it or not, he's not saying good or right or wrong, that the FAA considers the drones an aircraft, and an aircraft is just one big box. So same as a jet flying over you, I guess, legally speaking. And if you shoot it down, you're going to be in big trouble. And that goes for any altitude, 1 foot high, all the way up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So since again this comes up even in my fancy little peaceful Bay Area, it still comes up. People don't like the drones flying over them, and that could just be, say, maybe let's get Rob in here because from a real estate shooting point of view, the drone really only has to go over either their own property, the property next door, or maybe a street, but not far, right? And not for very long. So as long as, what do you think about that? I mean, what's your...
There's so many applications that you can use a drone for. And so here's the thing that I like obviously real estate's an easy one, right? You have a house, you want to shoot the house from an elevated area, see what the community is, see where you're living, and I think that's very simple. The thing that's really interesting is that the general public seems to hate having drones up there. They feel like they're being invaded. But at the same time, you ask anybody that's getting married, they want to have a videographer there, and they expect the videographer to have a drone. Anybody that's out there doing doing commercial work and they're hiring a photographer, they expect that they have a drone now. Like there's this sort of expectation that as a visual artist, you have a drone and you know how to do it and you have all the certifications for it because, well, it can't be that hard. The drone is only worth, what, $500 now? Like, it's ridiculous, the expectation on us, and at the same time, the absolute hatred of it, and people saying, we don't want this out there, and yet you have to have it because you're a photographer. It's one of those things where, you know, those two things can't exist together in the same space, but they have to.
Well, I agree. I agree with the expectation, and also the fact that these regulatory people, I don't know how Canada is a bit different, actually significantly different if I remember, but the FAA, I feel like they don't know why, but they need to control. And what I've seen now with, and I do understand it because flying things seem much more in need of that, right? And what I found just by relaxed observation, since drones have really become so easy to get, and like Rob says, they're all expected to have them. Everyone's expected. I've never seen a problem. I don't see drones all over the place. People are like, oh, they're going to be drones everywhere. No, everybody has a drone, but I hardly see them, very rarely. And
we see more drones in movies and TV shows than we do in real life.
Yeah, that's what I think is that, you know, there's this knee-jerk reaction, like if you don't control something, it's going to be out of control. But it's people, guess what? People are pretty good about being careful because you don't want to, you still be liable if something goes wrong. And people understand that, and people are very careful. And I just don't see in real life, in my observation, in a very busy area as far as real estate photography goes and other kind of photography goes, very busy area, I've never seen any problem. Our friend on, I got to ask him to come on sometime, our 51 Drones guy, he says, if I remember right, and again, link is in the show notes, please check it out. Free shout out. I didn't even ask him. There has been never a single real problem. Like
there have a couple of years
I guess I need to define real, but like there's a certain I recommend the video, but I can't remember the details now. But go ahead, Levi. Sounds like you know better.
In this thing, I've never heard of an actual issue with somebody flying over somebody's land. Drones have fallen out of the sky onto crowds of people. That's why there's a rule about no flying over crowds of people or any person who is not involved in your photography. But yeah, there's growing pains going on, and it's I imagine what it was like when you're cruising down the road on your horse and a car comes around and scares your horse to death and you break your leg. It's way worse. That was way worse than we're having with drones right now, you know.
Well, there are always big changes that come in the world, and cars are a good example of them. And you know, the humans find a way to fit it into our lives, and the drones, I think of are similar, but not being an expert on it, I should be just letting you guys fill it in. But since there's always so much discussion about it, I really liked his video. And you know how YouTube goes. Now that I've watched one drone video, I'm being recommended a million of them. Right. So I'll probably go down a rabbit hole, and maybe we can bring it up on the Q&A show or something like next time. But
I'm studying for my Part 107 right now too, so I get tons of those suggestions also.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice. I want you should. It doesn't take long, I understand. Right?
It's not a big deal. There's just some very specific things that are not intuitive knowledge.
Yeah. Well, let's do a little review, a little postmortem on that after you do it.
Okay.
And maybe Listeners, comment if you like a drone episode that I can just kind of let everybody else talk, or Levi, you just lead it. We can do it because it's one of those top of conversations, isn't it?
I mean, because we're flying a Hasselblad camera on a Mavic. Have you seen these?
Oh, geez.
It's a topic for another day.
Big.
What?
No, it's a partnership between DJI and Hasselblad. So it's a tiny camera. It's the same.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But something about it is Hasselblad. And for having a big old H on it, it's a disappointing picture, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine.
How
big of a sensor?
So it's got two sensors. It's got one for the wide angle and one for the telephoto, and the telephoto one is smaller. I don't remember the exact specs on it right now. So I'll prep that for you though when we do the drone episode.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's funny when you see the brands like Hasselblad and Leica and being put onto things like that. You'd think that they'd be a lot better, but was it Leica that was doing the lenses for a smartphone camera? And everyone was like, "Oh, the photos should be so much better. It's a Leica." But it's like it's on a smartphone.
That's
I don't know if
they just released a phone. Like there's a Leica phone that just came out recently.
Oh, yeah. Really?
To me, I'll be the buzzkill here, and that's just marketing because, like I said, everyone wants a drone. Everyone wants to talk about it. Drone. So Hasselblad probably just decided to get involved for the name, to get it out there. And,
I mean, they're just licensing a logo on there. So
I'm sure it's a good move, and maybe they have some good glass. I don't know, but
it's funny. Like we actually just got the DJI Mini 3s in circulation, and
you did?
Yeah. So instead of the Mini 2s were good, but the fact that the Mini 3s are now shooting at 40 megapixels instead of 12.
I might have to.
I think it was 12.
Dive into this.
It was really small. And so if a client of ours wanted to use the drone photo as the main photo on the brochure, well, it's good enough, but you can still see it's fairly, it's a little smudgy. And so bumping it up to the 40, it's a little sharper, but still you're talking about a small sensor and a very, very small camera up in the air. And it's not that much of a noticeable difference when you get into to print and all that, but the client likes the fact that we're shooting at 40 megapixels. They think that is a better image because of that, and the dynamic range feels like it is a little bit better. But quite frankly, the drones, we use the 249 Mini 3s simply because they skirt a lot of the regulations that are out there, and
that's true in Canada as well.
Yep, that's true in Canada. That's cool. As down where you guys are, and it just makes it so that we can shoot in places that we cannot take our professional. The Inspires and the Mavic Airs and some of our bigger equipment, because some places are just too close to an airport or too close to this or too close to that, or you need clearances for this, and so we've just gone and went straight to the Mini 3s. And so getting back to the whole thing about everyone expects us to have them, so we have them, but we're also going to use the ones where that has the least amount of requirements, because the regulations are just becoming so not difficult, cumbersome.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let me gratuitously ask, since you mentioned the sensor size, the Mavic 3 Mini 3 is approaching a 1-inch sensor, right? A little bit less than 1 inch, I think. That I saw in the specs.
I'll have to check on that. Yeah, I think you might be right.
It's something in that area, and having experience with Micro Four Thirds and stuff, you get tons and tons of pixels packed on a little sensor, and one of the noise becomes more of a problem. But for that many megapixels, when you reduce it down to usable size, you probably won't notice. But the dynamic range is much less, and since I'm pretty into that, my question is: does the Mavic Mini 3, the Mini 3, the new one, can I bracket auto bracket with it?
Yes and no. So it can so from my experience, it can auto bracket at the regular 12 megapixel size, but not at a 40.
Huh.
Right.
What the heck would that matter?
Oh, but you can use the
right?
same sensor for 12 megapixels?
Yes.
See,
So I think what it is, it's almost like image stacking.
It's using different parts of the sensor for the all at once, right? Is that what it's doing?
I have no idea. Like I'm just the thing that it reminded me of was the when Fuji came out with their IBIS cameras that could shift pixel shift.
Right,
the sensor to create a much larger image. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. But, of course, you're in a drone, you're up in the air, you're not going to be doing pixel shifts where it's got 4 images and then it stitches it all together. But maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's how they get to the 40 megapixels.
It sounds like it, because I've been, I tested, when I get the chance, I ask people for their drone shots, even if you don't auto bracket and you kind of manual bracket, like just change the shutter speed while it's hovering. Those things are so good they're so stable that you can use alignment this is the gratuitous part, the Photomatic's alignment. It's totally doable. It's amazing, you know. And
especially considering from that distance. Yeah. Like at that distance, you're not going to get much parallax. So
no, won't get any. No, that's what I mean. The drone is the drone. I mean, without parallax involved. So if there's nothing very close to the camera, meaning, then the alignment works almost pretty much always. And in the drone shots, the drone is quite stable, amazingly stable, that the alignment really is never a problem. So as long as you're not taking several seconds to change the shutter speeds and you're doing it relatively quickly, it should always work. So, but it'd be nice to have the auto bracketing as all too. It's just one of those where, you know, the DSLRs are getting better and better and better dynamic range, and that's great. But it's always, you know, the bracketing in HDR has always been a tool to get around dynamic range limitations. And so interiors and drones with bad dynamic range sensors, those are perfect uses for it. So,
well, and ours will do 5 frames at one stop. It's silly because it goes thirds of a stop changes. Like, is the sensor that bad that I need to be concerned about third of a stop?
Which drone? Which one is that?
The Mavic 3 Cine Pro, something like that. The one with the Hasselblad camera on it.
Not the Mini anyway. Like
it's not the Mini Mavic. No.
I think those are going to be popular though.
It's got a like the wide angle camera is quite good on it. But yeah, that's for another episode.
Let's come on to Levi's article, featured article of the month, because this should be coming out on Thanksgiving, but we're just going to talk about holidays in general. Well, I'll introduce really quickly. Levi put up a nice satirical article about how to ruin your holiday.
That's right. Everybody loves having a photographer in the family who takes over the event and makes sure that everything looks picture perfect and tells everyone to smile all the time. So be sure to do all those things that everybody loves to have happen every Thanksgiving.
It's the holiday version of holding up the vacation by, wait, I got to get the shot, and everybody's waiting for you. This is the holiday version. Ruin your. My favorite one in
Don't cut the turkey. Don't get there. Hang on. Let me get this thing. Here, somebody close that blind over there. That's good.
Don't use all those ingredients.
Yeah.
My favorite one was
get everyone to smile.
The image I used for the header for that article is a Norman Rockwell painting of Thanksgiving.
I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, so the great photographer Norman Rockwell was always capturing these perfect moments in time. How did he always get these? He painted them. He made them up. They're fake.
Right.
These don't happen. I am not expected to, make a marvelous picture of my grandmother setting the turkey on the table with everybody smiling behind her and a little tyke on the end of the table stealing a lick of whipped cream or something. This isn't real.
Yeah.
If you want to do that, set up a model shoot and do it, but don't force your family to do it. You get a certain number of pictures with your family, and you burn and you burn them at like 100 times, 100-fold expense during the holidays. So don't use them up too quickly.
So don't spray silicone on the food before it's eaten.
Yeah, don't swap the gravy for Elmer's glue or something. So
that was what I was going to say was my favorite part, was putting Elmer's glue in place of milk.
Nice.
Yeah, just like it's not the time. It's a terrible time, the holidays, to make content for your followers. Which do you really have followers? And so, terrible time to make content for your followers. But it is a great time to be content with your family. How do you like that? There's your quote for the episode.
I like how you say content. It's like not happy with your family or enjoy being with your family. Just be content with them. It's like, this is what you got. Be content with it. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
The socks that you got from grandma. It's like, be content, all right? She put a lot of thought into that.
And especially with the pictures you are able to make without causing trouble. Be content with what you can do with your family.
Yeah.
And just be with your family. Be part of the content with your family. It's so much more valuable. I've done the thing where I've posed my mother-in-law over and over for the turkey and made my brothers-in-law very grouchy. So this is coming from experience. It wasn't worth it. The best pictures were not there. The best pictures are not the ones where my kids are wearing coordinated clothing either. So.
No, and there's not enough political jokes that you can tell to make everybody smile at once. Or religious jokes, or jokes about money, or...
Well, that's how to ruin your holiday when you're not a photographer, is bring up those.
Exactly. We can combine those tips.
Could you threaten them and say, if you just do this pose, I won't bring up religion? Would that work?
Ooh, that would be a good one. Yeah. Use the stick rather than the carrot.
That's right. That's right. And they'll turn around. Well, lay off for next year. We're having Thanksgiving in San Francisco.
Don't bring any gear then. Just, you don't need your gear.
Yeah.
So you won't
Leave
get stolen.
Park.
That's right. Well, so there's another one. Another post we have up on Photofocus about doing a time lapse with your phone during Thanksgiving. And I did this with a platypod and a little arm that holds my phone up, and I pitched it up on the cabinets in the kitchen, overlooking the dining table. And that thing is running. It makes a cool product of Thanksgiving without imposing on anybody. And you just hit the time lapse on your phone, and there's no interference. Plus, you don't get in trouble with your spouse for checking your phone the whole time.
Do you need to plug it in to a battery or the wall for that much time?
I don't know. It depends on how if I'm using my 6S that I just got rid of, or if I'm using my new one. So.
Well, what about?
But
go ahead.
Oh, it's funny. Maybe it's me. I am fairly socially awkward, and I'm an introvert. I don't really like to talk to people because people are weird.
That is not my experience.
Did you say you're weird?
But yeah, well, exactly. I'm a good actor. I have that persona. I can put it on, take it off. It's like being a salesperson, right? But there's a certain thing about introverts like me where the camera actually becomes your crutch. You hide behind your camera. You can go up to somebody and say, "Hey, do you mind if I take your picture?" And you can be very enthusiastic, and then you can use that and walk away. It's the coolest thing. It's like being a waiter, where you can go up to a table, have a nice little chat with them, take their order, and then walk away because you have nothing else to say. Mm-hmm. I find that like at some of my earlier, when my wife and I first got together, and we, the family's all over there, and her nieces and nephews are not quite young. Yeah, I brought my camera just because it gave me the opportunity to take pictures and walk away and be in the corner and quietly like chimp my photos and make sure that everybody looked good. And
it's your excuse.
I don't know.
It's a good excuse.
Yeah. It really was. It really was. And now I'm at that point where it's like, Rob, you never bring your camera to the parties anymore. Why don't you bring your camera? Like, you've got all that special gear. Why don't you bring your camera? Like, you're a photographer, you know. And the simple reason is because I have got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of photos of you guys all making that same face that you do while you're chewing food. I don't want to go through that crap anymore.
Yeah.
There's that time just to put down the gear and just relax. I think that's what Levi's getting at, is just to be there. And I mean, for me, I know on a lot of these get-togethers, I tend to bring like maybe one gadget just to try it out, and but not push it too much. But while we'll always do a group photo. My mom will, plus, thankfully would always let's do a group photo before everybody goes. And I would try to just do something like bring a new, I don't know, LED light or something just to try it out and just to add in, just for myself, right? And maybe get a little bit better pictures than I would have, but try not to push it. And if you're having Thanksgiving in San Francisco, just leave the gear at home and just use your phone. Because we've decided, we've learned, right, about that.
That's right.
Any other tips on the way out for, I think how we doing on time, Rob? I know you got to go at some point. So let's end on some tips maybe related to holiday, since this show will be coming out near the end of the year, and Canadian Thanksgiving is done, but there are more holidays coming up, including
like Black Friday.
Black Friday's coming up. Yeah, there's some other ones coming up at the end of the year, I heard. So, that's probably my tip. My tip that comes to mind is the one I gave, is just maybe at the most, try something new, but don't make a big deal out of it. Don't let everybody have to spend more time for your practice. And because the beautiful thing is, when they don't work in those situations, they don't work, and you're not working with a client or anything, so you're not committed. So, you guys have any other kind of outgoing tips to leave people for the rest of the year?
Well, sure. Like, you know what? I said the whole Black Friday thing, but quite frankly, I had a friend of mine asked me. He's like, "Oh my God, it's Black Friday. What lenses should I be looking out for? What camera gear should I be looking out for?" And I thought, you know what? Same rule applies. Don't be fooled by the Black Friday sales, because, quite frankly, if you're a photographer and you need a lens, just buy it used. Right? Don't buy it new at Black Friday prices, because it's still going to be cheaper to buy it used, and it's probably still going to be better used, because you can sell it for the same price that you bought it for used. Right. Just don't get pulled into that whole Black Friday thing, because you don't need it.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's underwear that's on sale for 50% off, then by all means get it, because that's stuff you don't want used at all.
I've got to replace it anyway, so the underwear I lost in San Francisco. So.
You haven't replaced it yet? That was like a year ago. No, this last summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, used for the win, man. I'm on board with that, 100%.
Do you guys have any recommendation for like a sling bag, one DSLR and one lens sling bag? Because mine's falling apart, and I'm in the market for that, so I might go look for a Black Friday deal.
I try not to. Like, if I have a bag, that's where my camera is. And if my camera's in the bag, why'd I bring it? So I am still just such a proponent of the spider holster. It is, if my camera's handy to use, I can use it and make a good picture anytime. And do bring a camera to your thing. Do bring a camera to dinner, and make the picture that your mother-in-law wants you to make. Just be a nice photographer. And
I'm going to call foul. I'm going to call foul on that and say you've gone against what we said about not showing your gear. See that spider holster, you're showing that. I know, and I realize you probably have a pistol on the other side, but still, you don't want to have that spider holster showing off your nice glass.
I've got a story about that.
So you want to have it packed away for getting A to B, and then when you get to the scene of the not crime, when you get to the scene of the job,
walking up the driveway after I've walked up the driveway at the in-laws house, then I could put out my holster. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
sounds good. I mean, I keep talking about how I keep doing once a week. I do these football games, which is really fun, and So I do that. I have the gear in the bag, and it looks very incognito, and it's falling apart. That's one reason it doesn't look as valuable. And then when I get to the line, I pull out the camera, I put on everything. I put on the lens hood so it's longer and everything. So I look like a photographer, and I say, I'm the photographer, and they let me in. So at some points, you want to look like you don't have any gear. And then as soon as you want to look like a photographer, you own that. So no one's going to steal anything from me with all those cops around at the gate. So
right.
I like spider holsters too, but you got to have it in the bag sometimes, man.
Yeah. If I'm out making pictures, it's on my hip. If I'm traveling, I'll put it in a bag. It's true.
Yeah. But I mean, you're in a whole different environment than I am. And as you learned when you come into the city, then
yes,
you got to change your ways, brother.
Yes.
What else we got on our way out? Let's start wrapping up because we are going nice and long. As even though Rob he's not very social, doesn't really like talking. You know, we still went a long time, and I always do, and Levi, you always do. So here we are. I would like to just jump in if you want, guys. Otherwise, I want to just remind everyone to send in not only comments, good and bad, but constructive, but also comments for the Q&A show.
Questions for the Q&A show would be even better.
Sorry?
Questions for the Q&A show would be even better.
Yeah, I probably said that badly, but questions at photofocus.com, and I'll get those and I'll add them in. Sometimes we're kind of bundling a lot of questions together, like about drones, and just kind of making a topic or a question for the Q&A show. If you make a funny question or entertaining question, then we'll attribute it to that person. But a lot of times it's just a lot of people are asking about something, so we bring it up. And that's it. Again, questions at photofocus.com. And let's go around and tell everybody one last chance to say where to find you, give a plug for anything if you want. Let's go. Hey, Rob, what would you like to tell people about?
Sure. My name is Rob Moroto. I can be found at Rob Moroto in most places. YouTube, I have no idea what my new handle is. They come up with this new handle thing. I can't figure out how to make my handle work, but you can still find me on YouTube. Somehow, just search me. I'm also at robmoroto.com, and I do have a course coming out fairly soon. I hope we are editing it down to the nitty-gritty final edit, and that is about it for me.
That's Moroto, just like it sounds. Moroto. It's kind of like Canada. Canada.
It's also like banana, but yes.
Levi Sim at Utah State.
Yeah, you can find me at Utah State University. Just walk up to campus and ask for me. Or
it's small and everybody knows you, right?
It's a good sized school, but everyone does know me. But you can also find me on Instagram at PhotoLevi, PhotoLevi, or USU Photo Video on Instagram too.
Oh, cool! I don't think I knew about that one. I'm Ron Pepper, rpepper on Instagram, ronpepper.com. I don't really have that much to promote right now. I'm just, like I say, trying to be involved with everybody, and COVID kind of pushed us into doing some things back online again, and yeah. So, but yeah, follow me anyway, and you never know what comes up later. If you have questions questions for the Q&A show, questions about HDR, I'd be the guy. Once again, check out hdrsoft.com. I didn't mention that it's free to download and try. Photomatics Pro, that is. And for what it's worth, I guess there will be a Black Friday deal there. And yeah, that's about it for this month for Roundtable November 2022. We'll have our last episode of Season 1, December Roundtable. And then we're going to sit down with all the questions and comments and see what we do with Season 2. So with that, happy belated birthday, Photofocus, and happy coming holidays to everyone. Get out shooting. Don't drive your family crazy. And see you next month. Adios. Yeah.
Hey, Ron. How do you plan the most epic space party. You plan it.